If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
Speaking of guys in other lanes maybe the Knicks couldn't pursue, the Zion Williamson era in NOLA could be coming to an end. So you had Shams Charania reporting that the Pelicans are pursuing a trade in hopes of drafting G League Ignite point guard Scoot Henderson in the top 3 of this year's NBA draft, and that they are discussing internally whether they should be sending out Zion Williamson in order to make that happen. Again, Brian Windhorst is also piggybacked on that reporting, saying that the Pelicans are certainly looking at what their options could be for trading Zion Williamson. And whenever Zion Williamson trade rumors or unhappiness rumors have come about, the Knicks have shortly followed after there. He wanted to be a Knick when he was in the draft in 2019. Of course, that did not happen when Knicks lost the lottery. He talked about Madison Square Garden being his favorite place to play, New York City being one of his favorite cities in America. So the trade machine was already working as soon as these reports started coming out that Zion may be on the move. Tommy, if you were the Knicks, would you pursue Zion Williamson in this situation and get into this situation where if you're looking at, Portland maybe trying to trade 3, maybe you say, hey, let's throw in our pick, let's throw in Randall, let's make this a 3-team deal, and let's bring back Zion, because how healthy can Zion be really to help Dame Lillard win a championship? Like, should the Knicks get involved with this potential trade rumors?
Oh, man, EJ, like there's at times I'm jealous of sports executives. They make all this money and get to, and have get a place at the table of such important decisions. And I'd like to think I'm knowledgeable about sports. This is one of those situations where I think the Pels should probably trade Zion, but I don't think I'd have the stomach to trade him. If gun to my head, I'd probably bet against him, fulfilling his potential. But there are very few players in the NBA that have MVP potential. When he's healthy, he is a top 5 athlete, talent, a combination of what he can do on a basketball floor. A lot of people can't do. He hasn't been able to do it more than 2 months at a time. He hasn't been able to do it consistently, whether that's his fault or his body's fault or sliding into girls' DMs, whatever. There's a lot of red flags there, and there's a lot of stuff that you have to be worried about if you're a Pelicans fan, if you're a Pelicans, in Pelicans management, if you're a team that's considering trading for him. I'm sure there's a lot of executives doing a lot of digging, because these guys they don't mess around in these professional sports leagues. They know exactly. They have a better sense of just what the buzz is on Twitter. Like they get to the bottom of stuff. But again, the Browns gave up an untold amount of assets for Deshaun Watson and signed the richest contract in NFL history. If you are talented enough, a team will give you a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance and a fifth chance. When I want my team to be the team that gives, what are we on, a second, third chance now in terms of injuries and red flags? Man, because I'm not in love with Randall, I could be talked into it. I could consider it. I'd like the idea of just it would just be so interesting to see kind of how he would fit in alongside, the leadership kind of in a with Brunson led locker room and under Tibbs and all that stuff. So I wouldn't be dead set against it. But again, that's, my job's not on the line, so I can just kind of do it for goofs. I don't know. I'd really have to sit down, think hard. I'd have to think about what they'd give up. I'd have to think about what they'd give back. But I'm really on the fence when it comes to Zion. I don't know which way to go.
Yeah, I think I agree. This is one of the hardest decisions I think probably an organization will have to sit through in terms of the Pelicans. And I think it'll be equally hard for these teams who see a supernova talent out there who I think can be had probably. But what will it cost you? Will he ever play at that supernova talent level for you on a consistent basis? And what other headaches may come with him if you bring him into your organization? So, like, that's funny. I was talking to my brother a couple of nights ago, and I was looking at the Zion Williamson situation, and it's different because of the injury reasons, really. But to me, he kind of reminds me of like Chris Webber's early career in the NBA. Like, it's one of those things where if I'm the Pelicans and say, look, he may go somewhere else and be an MVP candidate, it just ain't gonna be here.
Right.
And that's a decision that like the Wizards / Bullets and the Warriors had to come to. And it
Yep.
wasn't necessarily or everything wasn't all their fault. A
Yep.
lot of it was the immaturity of the actual player himself. But sometimes you just gotta know, like, is there any scenario where like this thing just doesn't continue to kind of snowball and get worse and worse, and like it just might not work out. And he may go somewhere else and be great, but you may just have to live with that and hope you make the
Yep.
best of whatever kind of
And
shrapnel you get coming back for you.
and you could tell yourself that even if he goes on to fulfill his potential elsewhere, you can kind of reason to yourself it just wasn't going to happen here for whatever
Right.
reason. Like he needed to go somewhere else and get a fresh start and get a kick in the pants and realize nothing's guaranteed, etc. But yeah, it's a scary scenario one with the other. And the other thing the Pels have to ask themselves, some Pels fans, if they trade him, are going to say, "Why did you sell low? He's coming off an injury-prone year, and you let him get healthy and then trade him." Is this not? But the Pels got to ask themselves: is there another level of in other words, if he gets hurt again, how much further? If you can get 83% of whatever Zion was 100%, at the 12 months ago, you can get 85% now. Can you maybe only get 70% 6 months from now, and then a year from now maybe only get 40%, because another baby mom. Just there's a lot of There's just a lot of stuff out there that can scare you. And then the flip side is he comes in healthy and he can average 27, 9, and 5 for 2 months. So it's a difficult decision.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're looking at the salary you got for the next 5 years. You just signed this extension that kicks in this year. 33 million this year, 36 million the year after that, 38 million, 41 million, 44 million. I mean, that's a gamble, but if he's a great player, I mean, it's not the craziest.
I'm pretty sure
not Bradley Beal numbers.
I'm pretty sure there are protections, injury in games.
Yes, they are.
The first Embiid contract, there are protections on there. So
yes, exactly. So I mean, if he doesn't do what he's capable of, I think the most he'll get, I think, is 193 out of that, 250 million that he would get. So, like, I look, if I was the Knicks, you gotta call. You gotta see. You gotta call. You gotta say, hey, what is out there? Because you have Julius Randle, who I'm not trying to give him away for anybody, but like we kind of know what you're getting from him. The best you'll get is a maybe moody but probably really impactful and effective regular season, and a player who in the postseason is completely unreliable.
Yes.
So given where he is and who that player is, you're looking at not a championship. Maybe second round, maybe you can find a way in the conference finals, but it's hard to think that your second best player could be that poor in the postseason. You get all the way to a championship. So you have to ask yourself, hey, is this a kind of a good move to kind of maybe reset our clock a little bit? Like the Knicks are a young team, but maybe it feels like, hey, like given where Brunson's age is and his contract is, that they kind of have to get this thing done now, which is why you're hearing, hey, maybe you go after Bradley Beal, maybe you go after Zach LaVine. Maybe this kind of resets your situation. We say, hey, this is a younger guy that you're bringing in. Okay, maybe we will have to pay Brunson $40 million a year in a couple of years, but we have now, another 22-year-old to go with RJ Barrett and these other guys, and these guys will continue to develop. And maybe Brunson's a slight overpay in a couple of years, but we got other guys who are now entering the prime of their career, and now your team looks different. Maybe you're not looking at trying to win the championship in the next 2-3 years. Maybe you're saying, hey, our window in the next 6-7 years may be a little better.
While still being competitive.
And you should still be a good team, knock on wood, if Zion stays healthy. And that's probably really the main thing is for me is the health.
Agreed. The other stuff is a little bit concerning. The main question with that is the injury. If the guy can't play, and whether he's motivated enough, whether he just, that is the primary concern.
And you made a one point you made too about the injuries. I think was good, talking about like, do you trade him now so that you don't have worse things to deal with? Like, remember, like this injury he dealt with, like this wasn't some like debilitating thing that you would think that's going to derail his career. Like he had a hamstring injury and he couldn't recover. And like the thought behind it is, well, soft tissue injury, not in the greatest shape. Like, could your poor recovery be to the fact that you're not taking care of your body? It wasn't he tore his ACL or he had a leg fracture. Yeah, Achilles, but you don't know. Like, there's no reason, unless Zion doesn't take his body and his job seriously, that he shouldn't go back to being Zion Williamson. So, like, you don't want to, if you're the Pelicans, say, well, you know what? Like he had a soft tissue injury. Like we'll just try to motivate him again, and he'll come back next year. The next year he does blow out a knee, and God forbid, or does have some debilitating thing. Now you can't give him away. So that's something I think the Pelicans will have to wrestle as well. And it's something that, that if you're the Knicks or you're any team that's looking to trade for Zion, you may tell yourself, hey, like, yes, he's had these injuries, but he hasn't really had anything yet that would make you super scared that he can't play moving forward. Like, and maybe this is the time now to say, hey, if we can just get him to just commit, maybe this will be the right place for him. I actually think also, I think what I've learned about Zion in the last 4 years, however many years it's been in the NBA, 4, I guess, I think he benefited more from playing next to RJ Barrett in college than I think anybody ever realized, because RJ was the number one guy coming out of high school. RJ was the guy seen as the quote-unquote Maple Mamba. And Zion had a lot of hype, obviously, coming into that Duke season. I'm talking about once we got to the NBA draft and stuff. But he was seen almost more as like a social media star than he was even like the best player coming into that Duke class. And RJ took all the hits, took all the criticism, and as my brother noted, took a lot of late shots in those games that they won, that they lost. Like, he was a closer in a lot of those games. Like, a lot of that stuff, and we talk about RJ's maturity and how it's been a benefit to his NBA career so far. A lot of those arrows, so to speak, and a lot of that responsibility really was never on Zion. Zion can just go out there and catch alley-oops and just be a physical freak. I kind of wonder if you put him back with RJ Barrett, who's still shown to be a really mature young guy, a really good leader at just 22 years old. Maybe that's the exact right guy to put him next to, along with a guy like Jalen Brunson.
The other thing I was thinking from the Duke days is how much did he benefit from the structure under Coach K? That's a tightly run. We can knock Coach K for a million things, but they don't mess around in terms of meetings and professionalism of
it's like a pro team.
100%. And one has to wonder, had Zion been drafted by Miami and they had him on a weight, you don't weigh under this amount, then you don't get paid and you can't practice that day.
Right.
But to your point, like Zion was more of like a Mac McClung, Seventh Woods type internet sensation guy. What really impressed everybody was how well-rounded his game was once he kind of came to Duke and played well early on.
Yeah, he exceeded expectations in that freshman year.
100%.
Like, he was the third best player in the class. People thought Reddish and RJ were better than him. He came in as the third guy.
Yep.
Right. And then he came in and he was an absolute marvel. So you're definitely right about that. I think you're right also about the structure. Like, I think David Griffin's been an overrated executive for a long time. So, and I don't necessarily blame everything on him with this, but I felt like he set a bad tone the minute Zion got there. Like, I think Zion gets there and the first thing he's saying is, this is Drew Holiday's team. It seemed like they just were ready to just absolve Zion of any responsibility. Maybe in one sense, maybe trying to recreate what Duke atmosphere was to some degree, but I actually think it sent a bad message. To me, they ran that team like a summer camp. It was, you don't have to play here. We're gonna sit you out in summer league. We're gonna do that. It was just so much coddling to start an NBA career. It's just, you don't see that for rookies. Like, he was treated like he was a 33-year-old vet who they were trying to keep on ice and keep him fresh for the playoffs. It didn't make any sense how they coached him, how Alvin Gentry in that rookie year coached him, and how they talked about him. And so it's hard to start like that and then become a hard ass like his third year in the league. Like, it's not going to compute. It's not going to make sense to him. So I just didn't understand how they handled that. But the Zion Williamson stuff, I think, will be interesting. I think if he does get traded, I think you will hear stuff about the Knicks poking around. So
definitely. Again, I don't know if they do it, but they'll be in the conversation 100%.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest podcast ventures. Links will be in the descriptions. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.